Hey everyone, let's make some heart soaps. Today I'm going to start with some crystal heart soaps using the crystals you see on the screen there. I made those ahead of time. I use those in a lot of my soaps, so I keep a lot of them on hand. Later in the video I'll show you how I make those. The technique for them is very easy. Um, Although this isn't a beginner tutorial, I'm not showing you how to melt the soap or how to measure your colorants or your fragrance oil, anything like that. If you would like to see some beginner tutorials, I can certainly do that. Right now I'm just showing kind of an easy soap idea. So if you've worked with melt and pour soap before, this should be fairly easy for you. There I'm showing you my fragrance oil, Mango Papaya. I don't think I continued to do that throughout the video, and I'm doing a voiceover because I cannot soap and talk at the same time. Just doesn't happen for me. And as you see now, I'm off camera stirring in the fragrance oil. I'm not in my regular setup, so because the camera and lights just don't fit in my setup very well. So we're in another room and on a card table, which is a lot of fun, especially later in the video. You'll see the table shaking while I'm cutting soap. So I'll apologize for that up front. I'm stirring that fragrance oil in really well because that's very important for many reasons. Number one is so that it doesn't irritate your skin. Number two is it keeps the soap more clear. If the oil isn't stirred in properly, it's going to be cloudy and not show in your soap show too much in your soap. So as you see, now is where I realized I've forgotten my gloves. So instead of touching the soap with my fingers so that it gets whatever's on my hands in your soap, even though my hands are very clean, I'm just using a scoop, putting the crystals in. Normally I take a gloved hand, grab a fistful, shove them in the soap. Usually I don't leak it all over like that, but I was nervous, so that was fun. You see those little popsicle sticks? Those are silicone, and I believe I got them on Amazon. I'll link it when I finish this, but they are so handy, not only for stirring small bits of soap, but for, as you see, helping to shove little crystals in, and move other parts of the soap around when you're embedding soap. The soap I'm making here, I'm calling it Carnelian soap. It's a little more on the red side than I usually go with Carnelian. I usually have it a little bit more orange, based on the Carnelian stone. But this one just is a little more red. I probably used more of the stained glass than I'm used to. I'm used to making my polished rock soaps in larger quantities. So I'm used to working with a full bucket rather than just the very tiny bottom of that. So you'll have to use whatever amount of coloring and fragrance you're comfortable using. I would definitely check with the fragrance percentage that you're supposed to use, the IFRA guidelines, usually available on the website where you purchased your fragrance oil from. But again, this is not a very beginner tutorial, so I'm just assuming you know all this. This next soap here is the same thing with a different color, and what I'm going to point out here is that my basic technique is I fill the cavity a little more than halfway, and then I add my crystals. You could vary that as much as you want. You could add, I wouldn't add less than half because you're going to end up not having enough soap to encompass all of your crystals. But I add about, I don't know, I add as many crystals as I feel like I want. Then I usually add a little bit more soap over top of that, making sure they're all in the soap. All of the crystals are covered with the soap. Pouring temperature, I do it a little bit above the melting point, which is different for every base. So that is something you'll have to play with on your own or research on the website where you purchased your soap, or store or instructions that come with your soap base. As you see, I skipped ahead a little there. That wasn't intentional. So we just didn't get those amethyst soaps on film. This is the same technique though. This is a little bit more difficult. All I'm doing is a 3 color. So I aim to get the first color, which in the purple was also white, but with a different fragrance. And then I keep them separated just by taking that little stick and holding them back. Then I put a medium pink in this case, because these are supposed to represent rose quartz. The medium pink is a little bit more like rose gold, but that's the way I do my rose quartz soaps. And then I'm going to come in, you'll see, and put the darker pink at the top. It's just like I did with the purple. I started with white, and then a medium purple, and then a darker, more bluish purple at the top. The purple ones, the amethysts, are fragranced with French lavender essential oil. And the rose quartz is baby rose from Brambleberry, I think. And here you see me filling over the top. You do not want to wait long before you fill in over the top, because it sets up quickly, which is why I take it to above the melting point. If you do it at or below the melting point, you're going to find that it sets up too quickly when you're adding a lot of crystals. If you're just putting a few embeds in, then you're going to, they'll start melting. So this one here is just a quick little calamine clay soap. I added too much calamine. Again, I'm used to doing these in larger batches, and just in a hurry doing too many at once. I usually do a whole batch of one type of soap and then a whole batch of another type of soap, and didn't quite get the clay stirred in as good as I should have. With the rose clay, which you see me doing here, I don't think it matters. It's there's because the speckles that it creates on the front, I like the look of it, and it's just clay, so it's not going to hurt you like if you are not properly stirring in your fragrance oil. That can harm your skin, but the clay isn't. It's just clay, and skin safe clay at that. So the calamine lotion, the calamine clay, if you're using that, I would make sure it's stirred in really well and not to use too much, because it just doesn't set up properly. I'm pouring over my little leftovers into a side cavity. I always have something set up there, and been using that in my bath because I liked it. And again, I think that one was a rose fragrance as well. Yeah, the calamine was French lavender. Okay, so what you're going to see now is some crystals. Those are just scraps. I make larger crystal soaps that are hand cut crystal shapes, and I just cut the little points off. I cut little facets in them, and I save them all because they can be used again, like this. You could start with just a fragranced or not fragranced piece of soap that you have colored the way you want it for the crystals, and chop that up, which I do as well. And someday I'll do a tutorial on that, how I do my larger batches of polished rock soaps. But this, I'm sprinkling on some environmentally friendly glitter. This is not glitter now that I'm thinking of it. It's a type of mica, and I'm not going to try to pronounce it because I can't. So it's, I believe this one is sparkle gold. I'll leave it in the description, but it's a type of mica that's synthetic and has just the same effect as glitter, but it won't harm the environment. And I spritz with alcohol first and after. And I just sprinkle on how much I want and get the look I like. I like for at least the edges to be covered because it really highlights the shape of the crystals. when I'm cutting my crystals, a little tip on making them actually look like crystals and not just chopped up soap is I angle the knife a little bit. So I'll angle it. I won't cut straight down. Like when you're cutting a bar of soap, you want to cut straight down so you get a nice straight bar. Well, with the crystals, whether I'm going from a bar of soap or whether I'm going from scraps like this, I angle the knife a little in various ways. I just keep changing the angle a bit and tilt the knife down toward the table a little bit and then the other direction, and you'll find it gives a more realistic crystal look. And I'm doing several little batches of these because I just wanted to show the heart soap ideas I'm making. These scraps you see right here are from the Carnelian crystal soaps I made. If you are in the soap group I'm in, or any of the many soap groups I'm in, you may have seen this one. I think it turned out beautiful, but I wanted to use the scraps. So those I'm going to sprinkle with a gold. Those are the gold. That's right. So that's the Sparkle Me Gold, or I know that's the wrong name. I'll put it in the link. I'll put a link and the name in the description. Back to the clear ones. The clear soaps are from my my quartz crystal soaps that I make. So those don't have any color in them. They do have fragrance. They're peppermint essential oil in those. And then I added lavender essential oil as well to the soap base that I'm using, that I embed them in, because I wanted it to be kind of a cool peppermint lavender fragrance. Essential oils don't always work well or last well in soap, but I find that lavender does, and the peppermint, not as much when you're using it on its own, but if you're using it with something else, it does tend to keep a little bit of that fragrance around. So see there how I'm kind of twisting the knife and angling it. I don't know if I showed it well enough. I can't talk and even watch the video at the same time. So you see why I'm not soaping and talking at the same time, because it just doesn't work. My brain doesn't work that way. So that one is going to be for a Carnelian Heart soap that's a little bit different I just wanted to play with it. Wanted to use up the scraps that I had for my Carnelian crystal soaps. Colors. Oh, yeah, I'll put it in the description because I'm a mess at telling you what they are. Again, I didn't feel like the facets had enough glitter. I just wanted to show off the shape of the crystal. You'll see in a little bit, I pull some white crystals like I used in the Amethyst and the Rose Quartz soap, and I put them next to the quartz crystals. And you'll see why when I put it together, but I just wanted to mention that that those were pre-made. Those were the same ones I pre-made for the Amethyst soap. And they have white mica in them, so they're colored and then glittered on the outside. And here we have some shaved soaps. These are pre-made by me earlier for a soap I frequently make, usually using a wine soap. This was not. I'm just kind of playing with the shreds that I have. There are a couple of different colors in there that I'll link. But I wanted to show also how I make them. It's so easy. It looks terrible on this table I'm on because it's not very stable. See, there it goes. Wiggle, wiggle. That's fun. This is the soap I'm shaving up. Is a planet. It's a planet left over from a galaxy video I made, but it has not been edited yet, but you'll see it eventually, I'm sure. The shredder I'm using is a little bigger than most. It's a veggie shredder. I don't know the exact name, but I don't even think it's available. It was a Pampered Chef item and they don't carry it anymore. It just gives larger shreds. So if you want to create the same look, find a cheese grater that has not been used for cheese and use the largest setting on it, or what's the other thing? Salad shooter. Some people use those. But the larger the grate, the bigger, obviously, the bigger shreds you're going to get. And as you see, when I used a small piece to create the shreds, it curls up a little bit, so it gives it a different look. The longer pieces give a more wispy look. It looks like, look to me, a little bit more like grass or confetti. And then the curly ones, I don't know what they look like. They look like curls of soap. And I think they look pretty. They do look a little bit different in the soap. So there is, I mean, it's not a huge difference in the look, but you'll see it in the soap. It shows up, to me, it shows up more before you put it in the soap. So I think you could use either one and be fine. The top set of shavings I had already pre-glittered. So that's why you didn't see me stirring any glitter on those. They were already done. This one, I think in both of those, I'm using one of the synthetic micas that has a little bit of red tint to it when the light hits it. You cannot see it on the camera, but I'll link them in the description. They're really pretty, those kind of inference type colors. Oh, and there I'm scooting the shreds onto the tablecloth. That's fun. It is a clean tablecloth, at least. Yeah, I'm a messy soaper. I admit it right now. These are simple soaps to make, and if you would like me to do some that are more from the very beginning of, let's melt our soap, let's mix our color in, let's learn how to take the temperature, and how do we calculate our fragrance oil, all that stuff, I can. I absolutely can and will, if you want to see it. Let me know in the comments below, and I'll be happy to make some more beginner friendly, like very, very beginner friendly, because these are so easy videos. Wow, I broke that up very strangely. Happy to make beginner friendly videos, but these are just more ideas. These are, you've been playing around with melt and soap for a while, and you know what you're doing, and now here's some cool things to do with it. This one, oh goodness, I'm not even going to try to remember the fragrance. But these are easier to me because these aren't the three color ones are more difficult. Oh, I'm doing the hardest one first here, though. Am I? No, I'm doing I don't remember what I did. Isn't that terrible? I'm doing the Carnelian first. So, nope, I'm doing the shreds first. Someday I'll write down what I did so you don't have to hear me stammering around. So these shreds are the ones I usually use in my strawberry wine soap. And I did use a strawberry wine fragrance with this, or a fragrance combination that smells like strawberry wine. But the soap is just crystal clear soap. Normally I use an actual wine soap for those, but again, I was playing around. So, and then I use my little handy dandy stick, which were ridiculously cheap on Amazon, and they last, and I got a little tired of trying to use things that needed to be thrown away. I don't like to waste when I don't have to. So, and just like the crystal soaps, I add the soap first, then I add the shreds, and then I add a little bit more soap. If you're only using a few shreds, you want to make sure you're pouring at a temperature that isn't going to melt the shreds, because they're more easily melted than the crystals, because they're thinner and smaller. But I like a lot of them. So if you cram a lot of shreds into that soap, it's going to cool it immediately, and then it's going to be a little more difficult to get that top layer to, or really it's the bottom layer when you're looking at it from when the soap is finished. It's going to make that more difficult to adhere if the soap is starting to cool by the time you pour that last bit over it. And if you, with a soap like this that just has one bunch of shreds you're putting in, it's very fast. You don't need to place them specifically. You just grab a handful and shove it in, which cools the soap very quickly. Okay, so this is the next one that I was playing with. This is scraps from the planet I made. So it's from one soap, but it has two colors because it was a swirl that I did in the planets. So it looks like it's two different. The other one are actually two different soaps, or I mean, sorry, two different colors, and I just mixed them together afterward. That both, it looks the same to me for the most part. So I think you could do it whatever way you want. You could use a soap that didn't sell, or if you sell soap, or a soap that you made that you didn't really like the way it turned out. It's a great way to use up scraps or soaps that didn't work, because you should never have to throw away. I shouldn't say never. You should rarely have to throw away any soap. The only reason would be as if something got in it that might, like if you put an additive that you didn't know would melt it, like lavender buds, melt it, would ruin it, would mold. Because lavender buds, as many of us know, will turn into mouse poop looking things and rot in your soap, which isn't great. So this next one here I'm pouring is using flowers that normally won't mold, but I'm gonna put a little caveat there. Some people have had issues with using cornflowers. I'm using blue cornflowers, and mine so far have held up just fine. But I've heard some stories that they also can mold in soap or rot in soap. So kind of an experiment for myself. I use the cornflower for other things, so I didn't just buy it for soap, but I wanted to see for myself how well they held up, and so far so good. And I did this video a while back because I take way too long to edit and record voiceovers. And with adding flowers, usually calendula is the one that we know won't, or at least I know for me what I've used, and I've had some sitting around. I had one I made myself, and it sat around for 2 years before I used it, and it looked great, crystal clear, and certainly didn't irritate my skin. So I'm going to go under the assumption that those do not rot, and since every other soap maker who uses melt and pour and has used it says that's the safe one, I'll go with that. This one was just an experiment, and like I said, so far so good. I think the difference is if you're buying cornflower that is not really cornflower petals. I believe some of them sell petals that look like cornflower and call them cornflower, and they're really not, and so they begin to rot. I skipped ahead because we lost the footage for the Carnelian. I forgot about that. It's the same as the other crystal soaps, heart crystal soaps I made that were one color. I just poured a little more than half and shoved the crystals in and poured a little more on top. If you are, I was going to say, if you're less messy than me, then you won't have to trim the edges. I did really good with the Carnelian, but the rest of them I kind of over poured a little bit. I got messy. This one here is the cornflowers, and I just used a little bit of yellow liquid dye, a kind of an amber yellow color, because I'm using Amber Romance and I wanted it to look like amber a little bit. And the last one I'm doing is a little bit more difficult, but still easy. It's honestly just having something to hold the crystals a little bit in place till it doesn't have to set up. The soap isn't going to set up on you. But if you push them to one side for just a minute, just a hot minute, they're going to stick to the side you want them to stick to. So this one is just clear soap, no color. There's a little glitter in there, but I think that's just because I have glitter all over my house, and probably the stick that I had sitting there was in the glitter. So it wasn't intentional, but it never hurts. And this is a quartz style crystal. And so there at the bottom, you see now I'm picking up those white crystals that do have white mica in them, and the glitter around the outside stirred on it. And so that's what I'm getting a little picky with it. I'm a bit of a perfectionist sometimes, even though I'm messy. And so I'm trying to get all those separated from the others. And then there go the clear ones. And then I use my stick to bring everything to one side, because my goal was to have the top look like just super clear crystal, quartz crystal. and the bottom a little bit more like it has some inclusions. As quartz crystal will sometimes have white, sometimes have inclusions of other stones, other minerals. So I'm just kind of pulling it there because I want that top to be clear, which is a little harder than the 3 color ones I do because nothing's going to hold them back except pulling. But they stayed. You'll see in the picture in the end. It really did stay clear at the very top, and it was a really cool effect having the clear ones in there in the middle layer. Well, middle layer, it's not really a layer, but the clear crystal quartz crystals that I made, because they just have that little bit of glitter just picks up the edges of them, and you can still see the clarity. And I think it looked really cool. I was really happy with the way that one came out. And here I am still shoving one more crystal in there because I am a perfectionist and can't leave well enough alone. One point I didn't say earlier is I'm spritzing all of these with rubbing alcohol to pop the bubbles because we don't like that. We don't need bubbles, or at least I don't need bubbles. I don't know about you. Oh, okay. We're coming to the end here. This is the results. I pulled them out. I didn't mean to pull those out without filming, but I did. So this is what you get. From me, things are always going to be a little hectic or a little wonky, but that's just who I am. And there's the Carnelian. These are the puffy hearts, the ones you first saw me pour. I don't know if the camera picks it up as nice as it looks in person, but I think they came out beautiful. I was really happy with them. You see me spritzing these with alcohol after I pull them out for the camera. Part of that is when I go to take my pictures for my customers or for just showing off my soaps, I like for people to see what they look like when you're using them, because the first minute you put a clear glycerin soap in water, it's like glass. It's clear. And to me, it just shows it off at its best. And it really helps the light pick up the glitter so that you see the crystal shapes and whatever else you've got glitter on, which I guess for me is everything. So here are the shredded ones. And you see, I don't know if you can see against my black gloves that are way too big. There's a rim around the edge at the back, and that's, again, because I'm a messy soaper and can't stop when I'm pouring adequately, so it gets a little out there. Later, I take a knife and trim that off if I need to. If it's a soap that is square, rectangle, or something, an easier shape, I'll usually use vegetable peeler to get that off, but on the round ones, I find that harder. I'm a little bit uncoordinated when it comes to that, so I use a knife and just very carefully trim the edges, going slowly so I don't cut myself. Here's the Carnelian that you didn't see me pour. Oh, it came out so pretty. I love it. I did a few more. They're gone. But yeah, look at that. Look at the glitter. It sort of picks it up. The camera looks like it's picking up a lot of it. I'm still learning on how to get the right angle, on not getting my head under the camera, all kinds of things, how to talk while I'm watching my soap video. So please bear with me. If you want to see some more tutorials, I definitely have some more complicated ones coming up. I like to make complicated, technically difficult soaps because I find it to be a challenge, and I like to make soap art. These were kind of I make a lot of these because I do sell a lot of the polished rock soaps, and I'm just in love with making crystal soaps, and they are some of my easier soaps that I make. So just thought I'd share those with you, but I can do some more difficult ones. I can do some easier ones. Let me know what you'd like to see in the comments, and if you like anything that I'm doing or are interested to see hopefully how I progress, maybe get a little bit better, like and subscribe. Right now I only have this one video, but hopefully soon there'll be some other ones to follow. That's the cornflower, and it came out so beautiful. It's just stunning. The pictures of it are just gorgeous. I think I loved it. So hopefully the flowers will still hold up because it looks gorgeous. And yeah, this one did too. I love this one. This is the calendula, calendula petals in Amber Romance fragrance soap. You'll see a tiny bit of glitter got in there because I apparently can't avoid putting glitter in just about everything. That's not totally true. If I really am picky about it, I won't let glitter from one batch get into another. I don't typically do this many different soaps at once. So, oh, and here we have the results. I'm going to let these play through and let you enjoy, or maybe hopefully enjoy what the soaps turned out like in my Lightbox pictures. Thanks so much for joining me, and I hope you learned something or at least enjoyed it. Like and subscribe, and I really hope to see you later. Thanks. Bye.